Long before The Matrix became a Hollywood icon, a Mexican scientist was already asking a question that sounded like science fiction. What if reality itself is not what it seems? His name was Jacobo Grinberg Zilberbaum, a neuroscientist and psychologist who believed that consciousness might be directly connected to the structure of reality itself. To some, he was a genius, pushing science beyond its limits. To others, he was stepping into dangerous speculation. And then, just as he was preparing to test his most ambitious ideas, he disappeared without a trace. To this day, his case remains unsolved. A life driven by questions. Jacobo Grinberg was born in Mexico and experienced a major emotional shock early in life when his mother died of a brain tumor when he was only 12 years old. That experience, according to many accounts, deeply influenced his interest in the human mind. Instead of turning away from pain, he turned toward understanding it. He studied psychology and later specialized in psychophysiology, the scientific study of how the brain and nervous system relate to the mind and behavior. Eventually, he earned a PhD and began building an academic career in Mexico, researching how the brain processes stimuli and perception. On the surface, his career looked stable and conventional. He was on the path of a respected scientist, but Grinberg was not interested in staying within boundaries. He wanted to understand something bigger, not just how the brain works, but what reality itself is. The turning point: encounters beyond science. In the mid-1970s, Grinberg was invited into circles far outside traditional academic science. He was introduced to figures involved in indigenous spiritual traditions and healing practices in Mexico. Among them was a woman widely known as Pachita, sometimes referred to as Doa Pachita in accounts. She was a controversial figure who claimed to perform healing rituals that resembled what she called spiritual surgery. People reported dramatic recoveries after visiting her, although there was no scientific evidence to confirm supernatural explanations. Most scientists would have dismissed her immediately. Grinberg did not. Instead, he observed carefully and documented what he saw, trying to interpret it through a scientific lens rather than rejecting it outright. He proposed that human consciousness might interact with reality in ways science did not yet understand. This was the beginning of his most controversial phase: the idea that reality might be plastic. Over time, Grinberg developed a theory that reality might not be fixed and material in the way conventional science assumes. Instead, he suggested that reality could be something more like a field of information shaped by consciousness. He called this framework the synthetic field theory, or related conceptual models in his writings. In simple terms, his idea suggested reality is not purely external and independent. Consciousness may interact with or influence perception at a fundamental level. The brain may not just receive reality, but help construct it. This idea naturally led to comparisons with later simulation theory concepts, though Grinberg himself did not use modern internet-era terminology. He was essentially asking, is reality something we observe or something we participate in creating? Experiments on consciousness and connection. Grinberg attempted to study whether human minds could show non-local connections, meaning whether two separated people might still show correlated brain activity under certain conditions. In some of his experiments, participants were placed in different rooms. One would be exposed to stimuli like flashes of light or sound, while the other remained isolated. EEG readings were recorded to observe brain activity. He reported cases where patterns in brain activity appeared unusually synchronized. However, these experiments were highly controversial. Critics pointed out limitations in design, lack of replication, and the difficulty of controlling psychological variables. In science, extraordinary claims require reproducible evidence, and Grinberg's results were never conclusively replicated under strict independent conditions. Despite criticism, he continued developing his ideas. The matrix-like interpretation. Over time, Grinberg's work evolved into a philosophical model in which reality resembles an informational structure, something like a matrix or field of encoded perception. In this view, consciousness is not separate from reality. Reality is a shared informational system. Perception plays an active role in constructing experience. This is why modern interpretations sometimes connect his ideas loosely with simulation theory, although Grinberg's work was rooted more in neuroscience and mysticism than computer simulation language. He was trying to bridge two worlds, science and spiritual experience. And that made him controversial in both academic rejection and isolation. As his ideas became more abstract and unconventional, mainstream academia became increasingly critical. Many scientists argued that his theories were not testable in a rigorous way. His interpretations relied too heavily on subjective experiences. His experiments lacked reproducibility. In science, if something cannot be consistently tested and replicated, it is generally not accepted as valid. Evidence. As a result, Grinberg gradually moved toward the fringes of academic acceptance. But he continued writing, researching, and attempting to refine his ideas. The final phase, a plan for a global experiment. In the early 1990s, Grinberg reportedly planned a large-scale experiment involving meditation practitioners in different locations. The idea was to test whether collective consciousness or synchronized mental states could produce measurable effects across distance. He believed this could provide stronger evidence for his theories about interconnected consciousness. According to accounts from his family and colleagues, he planned to travel to Nepal to conduct part of this research. But he never arrived. The disappearance. On December 8, 1994, Jacobo Grinberg vanished. There were no confirmed sightings, no verified departure records, and no clear explanation. At first, authorities were unsure whether he was truly missing or simply out of contact voluntarily. However, as days passed, concern grew. His family reported him missing, and investigations began. Different theories emerged. Some suggested he may have voluntarily disappeared. Others suspected foul play. Some believed personal or domestic conflict may have been involved, and more speculative theories linked his disappearance to intelligence agencies or secrecy. Despite investigations, no definitive evidence has ever confirmed what happened to him. His case remains officially unresolved. Why the mystery grew. Part of why Grinberg's disappearance became so widely discussed is because of the nature of his work. He was already exploring ideas that challenged conventional reality, consciousness as a structural force, reality as information, mind-reality interaction. So when he vanished, it fueled speculation. People connected his disappearance with his theories, even though there is no verified evidence linking the two. This is where science ends and myth begins. What science actually says. From a scientific standpoint, there is no confirmed evidence that consciousness can directly alter physical reality in the way Grinberg suggested. No verified experiment has demonstrated telepathic communication under controlled conditions. Simulation theory remains a philosophical hypothesis, not a scientific conclusion. At the same time, neuroscience continues to study consciousness, perception, and brain connectivity, but within empirical limits. Grinberg's ideas remain interesting historically, but unproven scientifically. The legacy of Jacobo Grinberg. Despite controversy, Jacobo Grinberg remains a fascinating figure because he represents a boundary, the edge between established science and unexplained human experience. To supporters, he is a visionary who tried to expand the understanding of consciousness beyond material limits. To skeptics, He is a researcher whose conclusions went far beyond what evidence could support. But regardless of interpretation, one fact remains. He devoted his life to answering one of the most difficult questions in existence. What is reality? Really?